is Lori, and I'm going to talk to you about the cons of being a substitute teacher. Now, my focus in the last couple of years has mainly been high school. So now we're going to move on to some cons or some negatives about being a substitute teacher. Probably the biggest one is that the pay varies and can be low. Substitute teachers, throughout the United States, I am on some Facebook groups and things like that, and some questions have been asked about what you get paid. And a lot of times I've noticed it has to do with the cost of living in that area, but it does vary. So you do get paid more, for example, in California, where the cost of living is much higher than you do in the Midwest, like where I'm at in Wisconsin. Sometimes there is a variety as well, whether the district hires subs directly or uses a third-party vendor. So where I'm working at, they actually use Teachers on Call, which is a subsidiary of Kelly Services, but they use them, so they get a cut of my pay. But it's easy for me to use their app, and I do get some benefits with that as well. But definitely do your research, especially if you have various districts in your area, to get an idea. Now, some districts will have it where you get paid less until you've worked, like, say, for example, you've subbed for 10 times, and then all of a sudden they jump it up by $20 a day. But where I'm at, it's around $140 to $150 per day. But to me, I enjoy it, and it's some days are rougher than others. Some days I question things, but for the most part, I think it's easy money, but that's me, and I have it figured out. I would not have said that last year. It was rough for me. Another negative thing is that it does cost you money to get started, money and time. You have to, most states require that you have a bachelor's degree of some type. Now, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you can check into being a substitute as a paraprofessional or an aide, an assistant. A lot of times all you need in order to do that is a high school diploma. There is money to get started because you do have to take some type of a class to get you certified, the certification and the qualifications. Most times now, most states. Sometimes they may have changed. They may be different per state, but in my state, in Wisconsin, I had to take a class, and they did have it available right there through Teachers on Call, which was where the district was that I was working with, that they worked with Teachers on Call. So that was one of my choices, but I was in a hurry, so I did find a CESA in my area that offered it online. And so then I could actually go online and take care of it all in about 2 days and do it all online. They may also offer in-person classes that will take 8 hours, and then you get a certification that you've finished it. And basically they just talk about managing the classroom and all things to do with substitute teaching. So there is a cost with that, with taking the class. $100, I think, is about what I paid for mine. And then in addition to that, I had to pay for my state licensure, which was for 3 years was $125. And it did take some time. I thought that it wouldn't take that long. And I did it at the end of August in the hopes that I would be ready for the school year in September. And I didn't get the licensure until November. So there is a lot of kind of hoops to jump through. It does cost you some time and money to get started, so that is a negative. Another one is that generally substitutes do not receive benefits. We don't get paid for time off. We don't get health insurance. Now, if you do work with one of the third-party vendors, such as Teachers on Call or Kelly Services, after you have subbed for so long, I'm not sure what the parameter is, or you've done so many hours, you are eligible for their benefits, and they do offer health insurance and dental insurance. Another big reason why you might not want to sub, especially in the high school, is the rude and obnoxious students. Okay, they like to test substitute teachers. It's like a challenge to them. Oh, there's somebody new. We're going to eat her alive as much as we can. We're going to just see if we can piss her off and get her upset. They love to get a reaction out of you. So you have to be able to handle that and have some things in mind with how you're going to handle it. I've noticed as a female that students are ruder to me than my male peers. They just automatically, and I'm not being sexist at all, it's just that their presence is a little bit stronger than mine, so they automatically get a little more respect. So I do what I can. I dress up and I be professional. I will address the class. I write my name on the board. I tell them my name and I go through my rules, and they may or may not be in alignment with the teacher's rules. I may actually be a little bit stricter, especially to start out. It's always best to start out with strong rules and let them know what the consequences are. For example, I don't want to see or hear your cell phone, so put them away now. This is your warning. If I see your cell phone, or if I hear it, or if I see you using it, I will ask you to put it up on the desk. And if you're going to argue with me about that and you don't choose not to do it, then you're going to take your phone and go down to the office. So I will start off with that, but especially a class of, in my case, freshmen that I hadn't really been in front of before. And generally after that, I always will say, okay, guys, remember my rule about cell phones, put them away. I don't want to see or hear them. And if they happen to be taking a test, I will say, all right, here's the deal. I catch you with a cell phone out while you're taking a test, you will get a 0 and you'll get sent to the office. So they're pretty scared, and don't be afraid. You have to follow through though. You can't just threaten them and then you catch somebody and you don't make them put the phone up. And if they argue with you, you got to send them to the office. You have to have thick skin. Remember that it's not about you. Sometimes they will hurt your feelings with their rude comments. And you just have to remember it's not about you. It's about them and what's going on inside of them. So a lot of times if they're being really rude and obnoxious, there's something going on in their home life, or there's something going on inside of them, and their way of coping is to attack whoever it is that's right in front of them, or whoever has triggered them and gotten them upset about something. They can definitely be rude. Another negative, I'm not going to say con, but another negative can be, and it can be good or bad, but the high expectations. Teachers may leave lesson plans that may be challenging to complete, or for example, they might forget to release the assignment online, and so they told me, oh, there'll be an assignment in their Google Classroom for them to complete. And then I get to class and I ask one student, can you check your Google Classroom? Do you see an assignment in there? And they don't. Now maybe it's a timing thing that it'll come in 10 minutes later. So I generally have them, check throughout the day. But I've had it where the teacher's completely unreachable. And in those cases, I will email them, or if they've left their cell phone for me, I'll send them a quick text message. Hey, Mr. So-and-so, their Google assignment is not showing up. Just checking to see if you can do something. And a lot of times then they just have to go on their phone and click a button and it's released. So, but it is challenging. Even the technology of, they give you a laptop as a substitute teacher to use, and the teacher will have an email. You'll see the link and they want you to click on that link to play the video or play whatever it is. And so you have a lot of things there. Number one, does the video show on your screen? If it does show on your screen, yay, that's the first hurdle. Or even hooking your computer, the laptop that the office gave you, and hooking that up to the screen that's in the room. So at my school, there's 3 different types of screens. I'm using a MacBook, and so I need to have the special connection to connect a Mac to the cord for the device or for the screen. And so that's called a dongle. And if the teacher didn't leave one or didn't leave one on the end of the cord, you may have to check with the technology office or area to try and get one and check one out for the day. I have teachers now, they make sure that there is already a dongle ready to go, or that they've gotten the subcomputer and tried it, or they even leave it set up for me. Sometimes the other teachers in the group that are next door to you, they're very good at helping you out. Another thing is there is high expectations from the administration. They want you to be able to manage the classroom and handle students on their own. They don't want you sending half the class, 10 students, down to the office because they all decided to get into a fight. You needed to handle it somehow. Yeah, the fight probably, I actually would have called the administrator to have them come down to help me. Or if there's a officer in the school, I'd call and I always just call. There's usually on the phones a number just to call the office for all help. So, but I had to kind of set the boundaries and the lines, and they would test me. And so then it became an everyday thing, and it became kind of what they could do to get away with things. So I don't want to scare you. That was a long-term sub. That was a long-term substitute position that I took. So that isn't necessarily the case, especially as you get started. I definitely recommend not doing long-term subbing until you are very comfortable with the day-to-day, because there is higher expectations, although there's more money. The other drawback, I want to say, is you're limited with your tools. For example, at our district, the teachers use a tool called NetRef. And what that does, it'll monitor it monitors what the students are doing on their Chromebooks in the classroom. So the teacher can see every screen, and if necessary, like if they're doing something they shouldn't be on their screen, they can block them. They can shut them down and say, hey, you don't get any more internet access. So they can do it very easily, where you as a substitute teacher probably won't have that resource to you, and the students know that. So they pull stuff. So generally what I do is you gotta know what the expectations are of the teacher, because they may have left an assignment for them to do, for example, on paper, and then they may have said, and when they're done, they can go on their Chromebook. And you can interpret that as they should be doing other work, but generally I think they mean they can do whatever they want on their Chromebook. Don't worry about it. Just make sure they do their assignment. A lot of times I'll have them turn in their paper to me, and I also will walk around the room and watch what they're doing to make sure they're staying on task. Sometimes I've even set up camp at the back of the room so that I can see all their screens, especially if they're taking a test. I'll stay in the back of the room because I can see the kids turning their heads or looking down at their phone, or if they keep looking back at me wondering what I'm doing, then I know they're kind of pulling something. I have ways to deal with that, but it is frustrating that we don't have the same tools that the teachers have access to. Okay, so I'm kind of leading up to this, and I've alluded to the fact, but the biggest downfall that I think with substitute teaching at a high school level is learning to manage the classroom. There's a word for it, it's called classroom management. And you'll learn some of the things in your little training that you have. And if you work with Kelly Services or Teachers on Call, they do give you other presentations where you can learn about different classroom management tools and styles and things to do. What I have found is a lot of them are geared towards the smaller kids, okay, the littler kids. So the most challenging for me personally, now, mind you, I haven't done elementary at all, so I'm not going to comment on that. I did do middle school for 2 or 3 weeks and decided it wasn't for me, but that was tough for managing the classroom as well as ninth grade. Ninth graders, it's their first year in high school. They got something to prove. They're going through puberty. They are trying to impress their friends. They're trying to impress girls that are in the room. So they like to push your buttons. I have some different things that I do. I've mentioned a couple of them just really briefly, but number one is just stating up my expectations up front, and then being very setting up the boundary, and if they cross the line, I will handle it. There are different management styles, and the big difference too is how the teacher does their classroom management. The other disadvantage, you only get paid when you work. So I've had it happen. I live in Wisconsin. We have snow days. I may have been scheduled for a day when they have virtual school. Okay, and that's what, if they know the snow's coming, a lot of times they'll just call it a virtual day, and the teachers do the online thing like they did during 2020 and 2021. So that, they don't need me for that, so I don't get paid. This is kind of a tough one. Students have addictions, and unfortunately, in this day, there are a lot of different addictions that we have right there in school. They can be addicted to their phones. They're addicted to technology. They're addicted to online games, and they find a way. The other big con that I probably should have mentioned sooner is it's no longer a safe place in school, okay? You may have to deal with a lockdown or practice lockdowns where the safety of the students are in your hands. Weapons are also a threat of coming into the school. They don't allow backpacks in the classrooms, and that's a big reason why. So it is a scary place, and there is the potential that your life can be in danger one day, or just to be aware of that and to make sure that you know what to do in these situations. So I hope that this helps with your decision. I kind of have done an equal number of pros and versus cons of becoming a substitute teacher. I do find it rewarding, but there are definitely days that I question myself, and I'll call my daughter who's in college and be like, hey, I had a rough day. I'm thinking maybe I should stop doing this. And she'll say, Mom, you know that you're helping students in ways you don't even realize, just by my presence and my acknowledging them and talking to them as a human being and as a person. I also want to continue this series and give you ideas, especially for high school substitutes, because when I decided to become one, I searched high and low for information and YouTube videos, and I did not find any. So that's why I'm creating this series. So give me a like, okay? Give me a follow. I'm going to try and do one every week or so. And if there's topics you would like me to cover, or if you have comments, other pros and cons that I missed, put them in the comment section. Let me know. Give me some feedback. I thank you and wish you luck, and feel free to reach out in the comments section with any questions you may have as well. Thank you so much.